Let's now discuss the second part of the constructivism, which deals with the principles of this theory. Before we discuss the principles, let's first understand what are the components of constructivism. Now, the first line is you have three boxes of information. They are the key components, which are absolute knowledge, information processing view, and then apply across situations. So you have the knowledge, and then you have to apply in a certain situation. Then under that absolute knowledge, you have knowledge construction, multiple perspectives, authentic assessment, pre-existing knowledge, student-centered, guide provided, negotiation done. Then metacognition, which is the learner is conscious of his or her own mental processes or thought processes. And then moving on to situation, that situated learning, which means the learning situations are provided and they are from the real world, situations provided from the real life situations. That forms one's social context. And then you have group learning. You have the peers or people around you which facilitate the learning. So basically, constructivism has all these components where you have cognition part and you have the social part of the theory. Now, some of the key principles include learning must start with the issues around which learners are actively trying to construct meaning. So learning is not random. Learning has specific objectives, specific aims, and therefore it's not simply providing the learner with information. It is what information is necessary to form meaning. So basically, construction of meaning and their objective is the key of this principle. The learning process focuses on primary concept, not isolated facts. Once again, isolated facts are not going to help learner to develop his or her knowledge. It is rather the focus or focused processes which this particular theory advocates and focused on. Construction of the knowledge and not the memorization is encouraged. So basically, the idea and focus is that learners should be able to develop, should be able to construct, rather memorize what linguistic data is given to them. Learner must be provided with information on quality of their learning. So this is also one of the important principles of this theory, that learners should be provided with feedback, should be provided with information that how their learning is taking place and what is the status of their learning in terms of the quality of that learning. The principles have to be understood in terms of their comparison to traditional classroom. We have the traditional classroom's principles and we have the constructive classroom's principles. So let's see how they differ. Now, in traditional classroom, curriculum begins with the parts of the whole. It emphasizes the basic skills. Whereas the constructivist classroom, curriculum emphasizes big concepts, beginning with the whole and expanding to include the parts. So basically, the objectives are identified at the beginning, and then for the achievement of those objectives, the units or the parts are added. Now, in the traditional setup, we see strict adherence to the fixed curriculum, whereas in the constructivist classroom, we see the pursuit of students' questions and interest is valid. This actually advocates or develops motivation. Materials are primarily textbooks and workbooks, whereas over here you see the materials include primary source of material, which are basically one's own experiences. Learning is based on repetition here, whereas over here it is interaction or building of one's own knowledge. Here teacher disseminates, and here teacher have dialogue with students. So it is basically learner-centeredness which is encouraged in this setup. It's directive, and over here it is teacher's role is interactive. Assessment through testing And assessment includes students' work, observation, points of views, complete process as important as product. It is inert and here basically dynamic. Knowledge is very dynamic. Students work primarily alone and here in groups. Vygotsky is known to be a very influential psychologist who have contributed immensely in child education. He maintained that social interaction was foundational in cognitive development and rejected the notion of predetermined stages. So basically, interaction, social interaction has a key as far as Vygotsky is concerned. He introduced zone of proximal development, ZPD. It's a very well-known principle as the key principle of social constructivism. According to this principle, the distance between learners' existing knowledge or developmental state and the potential development stage. So that distance is what you call zone of proximal development. We have a short video clip where we will show you that how this zone of proximal development, when conducted on children, how children respond and how they show evidence of this development of this particular principle.
Children construct knowledge. Learning can lead development. Development cannot be separated from its social context. Language plays a central role in mental development. As we will see, Vygotsky gave great value to assisting children to use strategies to further their intellectual capacities.
The next time we count them, I'm going to help you.
Okay.
Put your finger out and we'll count each one. 1, 2, and help you point.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It is in this context that we will discuss the best-known part of Vygotsky's work, the zone of proximal development.
Point to each one close to the bear and count loudly.
1, 2, 3.
But when the teacher structures the activity differently, the same child can perform at a higher level, counting meaningfully to 17 without missing any bears.
15, 16, 17.
Great job, Quentin.
The area between the level of independent performance and the level of assisted performance is the zone of proximal development. It is here where the teacher must focus attention.
Barney. Let's see how we put this Barney color on. Let's find the edges first. Let's see. What color is this? Gray. You know what color this is? That's gray. So let's find one that looks like this. Does this look like this? Do you think this goes here? No. How about this one? Let's try that. Put that one. We gotta find the other piece that goes right here.
The puddle.
Do you think that one goes there? No. Let's find the color that looks like this. Right here. He has his raincoat on. Good job.
Is it raining?
Is it raining?
Yeah.
Look. We did it. Good job.
Vygotsky's work reminds us of the processes necessary for children to regulate their own internal and external behavior. Encouraging children to draw what they are experiencing, to talk to each other about it, to write about it, and even to talk to themselves about it, enables them to move towards being independent learners.
So we saw that how Vygotsky's concept of developmental theory has worked on children successfully. So in the words of Vygotsky, we do not learn because we have developed. We develop because we learn. To conclude, the principles of constructivism focus on the learner's construction of his/her own knowledge and interaction with the environment. Vygotsky's principle of zone of proximal describes tasks that a learner has not yet learned but is capable of learning with appropriate stimuli, with appropriate assistance.